Well, hello and official greetings to all of our attendees today. Again, thank you so much for attending Code Use Demo Day. This is actually the second demo day we hosted. We hosted our first one back in January, and it seemed to be a really great success. So we are thrilled to have you all here for our second one. We're always excited to show off our students. They are amazing. And this is a really great venue for us to do that. So we appreciate you all for spending some of your Monday afternoon with us. Just a quick overview of what you're going to be seeing today, a little bit more about our participants. So these are folks who started a cohort with us back in August, so a little over 9 months ago or so. And they wrapped up with that course in early April. So throughout that 6-ish months, they were doing courses through Pluralsight. They were making a project, doing code challenges, working with mentors who are really great volunteers. And they were following one of three pathways. So it was either web development with JavaScript, data analysis with Python, or software development with C#. You're going to see a mix of all of those pathways in our projects today. We have a really great variety of students who are going to be presenting. They also represent various regions, and we have a great mix of regions in attendance. So you're going to see folks presenting who are from the greater Louisville, Southern Indiana area as part of our Code Louisville program. And then under the Code Kentucky umbrella, we have the greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, Eastern Kentucky area, and then Central Kentucky or Greater Lexington. So some of you may just know us kind of more from the early on Code Louisville days. We have expanded. We're in several areas of the state, as you just heard. So we are thrilled to showcase some of those students as well. It's a really great mixture. As our event today, so we are going to have 11 presentations, I believe. They're going to be about 5 minutes each. Each of our presenters, again, is either going to be from that web development, data analysis, or software development pathway, and they are going to be from a variety of our regions. We are so excited. These are some of our best and brightest students. When they have their projects due at the end of every session, our training team, and our mentors go through and grade them and really tried to pick out some of the best of the best. So you're going to be seeing some really great projects today. I'm really excited for you to check those out. After those presentations, we are going to open up breakout rooms. Each of our presenter will be in a breakout room, and you can self-assign yourself to one of those rooms to talk to them. So we know that a 5-minute presentation usually isn't quite enough to get all the information you may want. So if you are interested just in their project, wanting to learn more, if you have any hiring opportunities at your company that you would like to talk to them about, we would encourage that as well. Whatever kind of works best for you. Our only request at the breakout room point is that our former students who are in attendance, please let the employers and community partners kind of get first dibs on those and asking questions. We want to make sure that our presenters get as much time with those folks as possible. After this event, I will be sending out a follow-up sometime later this week that's going to have the full recording of the event. So if you have to hop off early, or if you need to, if you want to revisit a presentation, we would love to have you do that through the recording. And I'm also going to share a folder of resumes for our participants. So if you are interested in getting in touch with any of them, you can do so. And if you are really raring to go and want to get in touch with someone sooner, please feel free to email me at shannon@codekentucky.org. I also sent you the calendar invite if you're one of our employer or community partners, and I would happy to get that information to you a little earlier. Program-wise, I did just want to share a really exciting milestone that we just reached as Code U. We are now at over 1,000 unique job placements program-wide, which is mind-blowing. Some of you I've known for a long time. I actually started with Code Louisville. I was a student in the very first class, and then started full-time with them in April of 2016. And on my first day, we were at 44 job placements. So to see it go from 44 to now over 1,000 is just mind-blowing. And we are excited to keep adding more. So thank you all for your support in that, because we couldn't do that without anyone on this call. So we really appreciate you. I am going to hand it over to Don Hanson now. So Don is one of the awesome members of our training team who's been in the program um, in one facet or another for quite a few years now. I think about as long as I have. So Don, would love to hand it over to you to introduce our participants and get these presentations kicked off. Thank you all again so much for being here.
All right. Thanks, Shannon. Sorry, my mute wouldn't unmute. Craziness. No, yeah. Was a volunteer mentor for a long time until I started working here 3 years ago now, something like that. So yeah, I've seen a bunch. And again, another great round of projects. I don't know how many projects I've graded over the years and looked at and seen, but they just keep getting better. So it's awesome. First off, we've got Dakota Riley from Jeffersonville, Indiana, and they were in Code Louisville in the web development track. Dakota, why don't you start us off?
Yes, hello. Welcome. Thank you for introducing me. My name is Dakota. I am from Jeffersonville, Indiana. And for my capstone project for Code U, I did an e-commerce dashboard for a computer parts store that I would one day like to make myself. So a little bit about me, like I said, and like Don said, I'm a Jeffersonville native, but I was born in Louisville. I am a gamer, PC builder as well, and a sci-fi fan. And I was a web dev student in the Code U course, as well as a Purdue graduate with a double major in game design and web design with a bachelor's degree there. I chose Code U because I had a 10-year background of coding off and on, but never got too deep into it. And I was wanting to basically further my skills as on the coding side because my degree was design side, so less about the coding, more about the UI and UX. I also am trying to seek employment into the tech industry. It's one thing that I am really have a huge goal for because that's my dream, is to work in the tech industry. And then I chose this project mainly because I love building computers, and I know a lot about computer parts and everything. And I figured doing an e-commerce store that focuses on that would be a challenge in and of itself. It allowed me to learn MongoDB for database, allowed me to learn Google authentication for logging in, using Passport.js. I had to practice my REST API skills, so that helped enhance my knowledge on that. And then also just furthering my vanilla JavaScript skills. I didn't focus on doing a framework or anything like that. I just wanted to get into the nitty gritty with JavaScript itself and really understand the ins and outs of it. So some of the elements of my project, I have a Node.js backend with Express. It connects to the MongoDB database that's being hosted on the MongoDB Atlas platform. It's using Passport.js as a framework for the authentication and Google 2.0 auth. It uses Tailwind CSS styling and EJS templates with Vanilla.js for basically having the layout look similar on all pages and only the content being updated by the individual pages. So there's some challenges that I faced over the course of the project. Feature creep was one issue. I originally planned to have two sides of it. One was going to be the storefront, and the other side was the admin dashboard. There's a limited amount of time to do the project in, and I figured because of that, I had to scope down a bit and try to really make the best I could of one side of the project. So I focused on doing the dashboard, since that is going to be more important for actually managing your products, prices, all that kind of stuff. Early on, I had some issues with the database, with actually storing products. For some reason, I wasn't exactly sure why it got down. It just had some issues with the actual connecting to the database. So I had to rewrite the whole program on that side, and it connected and started working. And then I also had some issues with managing parent categories for products and other categories. So an example is like you have a processor. That's just the normal category. Then you have two brands, and those are your subcategories. You have Intel and AMD. Just as an example there, being able to set the parent category of Intel to being a processor, if I were to delete that, it would cause issues in the database, and I'd have to basically delete everything and restart. So I can show you a little bit about how I implemented that on the next slide. So what it does is it gets a reference to the products that use its ID, as well as the categories that would also use its ID as a parent category. It basically, and it prevents the actual category from being deleted, and also displays an error about why it cannot be deleted. That's just one of the challenges I had to face. And I've got a walkthrough of the project itself. So we're gonna go over here. You can see here we're on the login screen, and it'll log in with Google. You'll select the account, and then it'll show your name from Google, as well as just this little text for what could be added in the future, like some charge for sales information. And then also up here, it'll show your name and an image as well. For some reason, it's not pulling the image, but it was before. Then you have your products page. You can add a product, type in a name, you can choose the category, write in a description, type in a price with a number. So it's $2.59. And let's say that it's on sale for a discount, like it's $2.29 right now. You can create it, creates that project or that product. You have it here. You can go in and edit it, change details. So maybe the price goes back up. It's $2.49 now, still on sale, but costs a little bit more. And then you can also delete the project or the product. Sorry about that. That is pretty much the basic functionality of that. And then you've also got categories management, that you can create a category. So let's just say it's just a random category. We'll give it a parent of that processor, save it. There it is. Try to delete that parent category. It won't let me. It says cannot delete parent category existing child category with existing child categories. So if I delete that, and then I delete these other two. Oh, it's got child categories. Okay, that's got products actually. So delete the products, and then I can delete these now, and then I can delete this, and then you can of course edit the category as well. So we'll go ahead and create this again, edit, and then so there you go. You got the categories as well. And then in the future, I will also implement orders. I will implement a settings page that you can like maybe change the colors and change some user settings. And then you can also log out and log back in. And that is that walkthrough of the project. So over the course of this project, I learned more about the Express.js router, setting up the MongoDB database, authenticating users with Passport.js and Google, managing the time on the project, and just ensuring that I put in my best effort on what I could during that time frame. And then I also understand just searching Google, Stack Overflow, the documentation of projects, and actually using ChatGPT for any assistance on any issues that I had, errors that came up, and being able to understand the code that I was writing more through that. To contact me, I have LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Dakota-Riley. I have GitHub, it's github.com/Dakota-Riley-Media. You can email me at dakotaAustinRiley@gmail.com. And my current project that I'm working on is a website for a buddy of mine who's wanting to become a self-published author, and he wants me to build his own website. And he's named his company Bloody Badger Productions. So I am working on that from him now. I just got started on it. So that is still very early in progress, but it is my current project that I'm working on. And then I want to thank you all for your
Awesome.
time.
No. Thank you, Dakota. Great job.
You're welcome. You have thank you all so much, and I'll be seeing you here in a little bit.
Awesome. Very good job, Dakota. Next up, we've got Emma Ortiz. She's from Nicholasville. She is in Code, Kentucky, and she was taking, she did the data analysis pathway with us. Emma, go ahead.
Thank you, Don. Hi, my name is Emma Ortiz, and I'm so happy to be here today. A little bit about me. I work as the IT service desk coordinator for a higher ed institution. I work with processes and support and systems at our service desk. Check out my resume or LinkedIn page for more details on that. I'm a classically trained pianist, so in my downtime, I'm often found playing for ensembles, church, and the occasional wedding. And in general, I like to stay busy, whether that's freelancing in media, playing soccer, or hanging out with my friends. I originally participated in Code U to learn more about data analytics, which I've been interested in for several years now. I thought that the program would be able to give me a good overview of some of the basic skills needed in this field, and I was interested in learning that. Right now, I just want to learn and be well-rounded so that I can be prepared for any opportunities that may come up for me. So for my project, I use data from my work environment. We use a ticketing system to keep track of technology requests or issues at the university. I knew that the data would be readily available to me since I'm one of the administrators of the system. And I chose this project because it's based in real life. I knew that I'd be motivated by the fact that what I was working with was actually applicable to me. So for my project, I exported the data from our ticketing system to cover tickets that were submitted in the years 2022 and 2023. These were two separate CSV files, one for each year. My code file anonymizes the sensitive data in these files to 4-digit unique identifiers. This was actually the hardest challenge in the product, was the anonymizing section. I was working with two different CSV files with overlapping information, the same agents, the same emails, etc. I wanted the unique IDs to correlate between the two files so that my name as an agent in one file would be the same ID as my name in the other file. I did use ChatGPT to help me with this since I wasn't sure how to approach the program logic here, but even using that tool, it took me several tries with continuing to prompt it and having to test each time to get it to work how I wanted it to, having the same ID for the same information that overlapped rather than assigning random IDs in both files individually. I needed the information to relate because I needed to be able to compare data between the two files, like for comparing agents' performance between the 2 years. I've included a snippet of code here that shows part of the final solution, which was making a copy of the codes used in the 2022 file and applying it to tickets 2023, the 2023 file. So we'll see the end result of this here in a couple of minutes. So the second step, after the data was anonymized, I created a column to categorize the data better. This column is created to specify to which team each ticket belongs. And this was accomplished just with an if-then sequence, which is based on keywords. So we see from this code snippet that in the existing group column that I had exported, if SD is found, to print service desk team in that row of the team column, if NT is found, to print network team, and so on throughout our teams. This allows me to be able to sort the ticket data not only by group, but also by team, which gives me more versatility in the next step of the process. So after I manipulated this data to make it anonymized and more accessible from an analytics standpoint, I imported it to Tableau and made a dashboard with analytics. I've always thought it's fascinating how data can tell a story and influence the real life business decisions. And I enjoyed being able to experience that in this project. Actually, I think that's my favorite part, was building the dashboard in Tableau Public and learning more about that platform, which was really neat. Here we see the dashboard I made from the data that we just talked about that I imported in. So let's take a closer look at a couple of these graphs. This is a comparison of the groups that received the most tickets each year. We can see our general network team group, NT General, was the largest both years, with student and employee support groups up there too. Here we see a reflection of our business process. The network team actually has some tickets that automatically generate for their internal processes, so that contributes to the higher number that they received. This graph shows the agents that received the most tickets. These are identified by their 4-digit unique ID, which you can see on the left. And because I made the unique ID correlate between the 2022 file and the 2023 file, we can compare the number of tickets they received each year. If you look at the bottom, you may be wondering why Agent 3569 has so many tickets. Well, I looked up who that was, and I found that all of those tickets were assigned no agent. So that tells me that we need to set up better automations in our workflow to assign tickets to agent to avoid any slipping through the cracks. That's part of the story this graph is telling and a way that it can influence and improve our processes in the future. So that's me and my project. Thanks so much for being here today. My contact information is here on this slide. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in a breakout room or on another platform later. Thanks so much for your time.
Amazing job, Emma. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got Aaron Searp. He's with Code Kentucky out of Lexington, and he was in software development. Aaron, up to you, man.
Hey, Aaron, we can see your screen but not hear you yet.
Yeah, sorry, I
Awesome.
forgot to unmute my mic. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Aaron Searp. Today I'll be presenting a project called Real Estate Scrape. It's a real estate search engine for Central Kentucky. But before we get into that, I'll have a quick word about me. For the past 14 years, I've worked in manufacturing in an instrumentation and controls role. I've always had an interest in programming and tech, but I've always felt like the barrier to entry was a bit out of reach. However, over the past couple of years, I've had several friends break into the industry without having CS degrees or degrees in related fields. So that kind of gave me a bit of hope as well as the impetus to look into it further. Discovering Code U gave me the chance to test myself and gauge my aptitude to see if I had what it took to learn to code. And while it can be very frustrating and challenging at times, it is also one of the most rewarding subjects I've ever studied. That feeling you have when you finally get the bug that you've been looking for, you finally grasp that difficult concept that you've been struggling with is a great feeling, a feeling I wouldn't mind having on a more regular basis. Along the way, I also discovered that my real interest lay in creative problem solving. That's one aspect of the job that I do now that I really enjoy. I just don't get to do it very often. I think that's probably the main thing that draws me to programming is it seems to be very heavy in the problem solving department. So what is Real Estate Scrape? In essence, it's a very limited Zillow clone that utilizes web scraping rather than an API to aggregate data. The project consists of 2 distinct applications, a console application with a database and a web application from which to query the database. The scraper acquires the HTML code from the target web page, parses the desired information from the document, reformats it, and saves it to the database. The web application provides a visually appealing and user-friendly interface from which to query the database. So why did I choose this project? I have a general interest in real estate, having flipped several properties in the past and owned rental property. My wife and I have recently been looking to purchase a new home. Some of you may know the current state of the real estate market is very competitive. So you really have to stay on top of new listings. I found myself going to realtor.com probably 10 times a day and having to search each individual county and then filter the results, which after a while got very old. So I decided to create a kind of one-click solution to my problem. The first iteration of Real Estate Scrape was just a console application built with C# and .NET that when it was run would return information in real time only on the most recent listings in the counties we were interested in, which saved me a lot of time and effort. As great as that was, I saw the opportunity to expand the program a bit further to challenge and educate myself. So I added a database with SQLite and a web app with ASP.NET MVC to query the database from. couple of challenges I had along the way. Web scraping can be very difficult to do. Generally speaking, websites, particularly for large companies like Realtor.com, do not appreciate it when you attempt to scrape data from their websites and put defenses in place to prevent people from doing so. So to navigate around this and to avoid violating anyone's terms of service, I used a local real estate agency's website to scrape my data from. But beforehand, I contacted the agency and explained the project and that it was for educational purposes. And they very generously agreed to allow me to scrape their website strictly for the purposes of the project. I also told them I would restrict my activity to late in the evening hours so it would be less likely to disrupt normal traffic to their website. I also had to teach myself various web scraping libraries and techniques. Web scraping was not something that we covered in class, so it was something I had to research and learn on my own to complete the project. With that, we will end with a quick demo video of the actual application working. So this is the scraper. You can choose to create your own list of counties, or you can scrape the entire list of counties. As it's scraping and printing the address there, it's also populating the database with the listing information. I had it print the address so that the user would kind of have a visual cue that the application was working properly. So once your database is populated, you can then go to the front-end web application. And from here, you can select a number of different search criteria. You can select county, price range, square footage, and lot size. And so then once you hit the submit button, you'll be presented with a table on the results page of all the various listings that meet your criteria. You'll also have a link there to the actual listing itself. If you see something that piques your interest, you can go take a closer look at the actual listing. And with that, thank you all for your time and attention. Again, my name is Aaron Syrup. I can be contacted through LinkedIn or GitHub or at aaronsyrup@gmail.com. I'll be in one of the breakout rooms after the other presentations. If you have any other questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Very cool stuff, Aaron. That's really cool. I like the initiative too to do something that wasn't even in the curriculum.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
pretty
you.
cool. Next up, we've got Amanda Gearhart. She's from Eubank, Kentucky. She was with Code Kentucky, and she was in the data analysis track. Amanda, good luck, and excited to see your stuff.
Hi, my name is Amanda Gearhart. I'm a freelance technology consultant. I currently work with small businesses and nonprofits to provide technical solutions for their unique business needs. So some days I'm working on digital marketing campaigns. Other times I'm training end users on how to use their new software. My interest in coding began a number of years ago. And there we go. Previously, I was a public library director. In rural communities, STEM opportunities can be limited. So my goal was always to provide hands-on experiential learning opportunities that could reach our community members outside of the school setting. So as a facilitator for these programs, I learned right alongside the students as we covered activities that included coding, electronics, engineering, math, science, and the arts. After I spent so much time facilitating these programs, I wanted to expand my own skill set, and CodeU offered the opportunity to learn these skills. I chose the data analytics program to develop skills in Python, Jupyter Notebook, SQL, and Tableau. Adding the skills from this track aligns with my goals and interest in data science and artificial intelligence. So when the time came to select a topic for the capstone project, my inspiration came while I was on vacation. Orange Beach, Alabama is part of an engineered beach program where restoration projects regularly occur in an attempt to maintain certain beach levels. Since 1923, the United States has spent $15 billion to rebuild beaches in 2,500 projects. So after witnessing one of these projects, I wondered how effective this is to maintain our coastal areas. The program for the study of developed shorelines provides information on U.S. beach nourishment projects. This Orange Beach project was needed because of hurricanes in 2017 and 2020. Because of the hurricanes, I looked for information on worldwide natural disasters. My thought was that I might determine how long this project would last by looking at sea level trends and climate change indicators. So to complete the analysis, I use Visual Studio Code with Jupyter Notebooks and Python. I use Pandas and NumPy for data cleaning and generating summary statistics. And then to generate my visualizations, I use Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly. The Beach Nourishment Database included information about the projects, and this was kind of really key to get started. It included their locations, justifications, funding sources, costs, and the amounts of sand. And in this first visualization, we see that 59% of the projects were federally funded. I extracted the United States tropical storm information from the worldwide natural disasters and then grouped the locations of tropical storms into regions to allow for comparison. And of course, we find more tropical storms impact the Gulf Coast region than the other regions. When we look at the annual cost of storm damage, it is generally higher in the Gulf Coast region, which makes sense with the higher number of storms impacting that area. So when I started the project, I thought I would try to figure out how long this beach would be there with rising sea levels and climate change. Through the analysis, we see that the Gulf Coast region has the highest number of storms, the highest number of beach projects, and rising sea levels. So how long will that beach be there? Well, if our sea level increased by 4 feet, the beach in question should still be there, according to the sea level rise viewer from NOAA. However, that doesn't account for our tropical storms that frequent the area, so further analysis would definitely be useful. Moving forward, I would like to explore the economic impact of these projects related to employment, tourism, and residential needs. What level of funding is sustainable to protect homes and businesses in these popular areas? Can we keep up with the storms that wash away these projects in a matter of days? Please join me in my breakout room afterwards to discuss this project in more detail. And I'm open to roles that combine storytelling, technology, and data to make a meaningful impact in the world. Thank you.
Amazing job, Amanda. Very well done.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got Chris Metcalf from Harlan, Kentucky. He was in the software development class with Code Kentucky. Chris, go ahead.
Chris, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I'm a longtime systems administrator and engineering technician looking for new things to learn and new ways to expand my career. I was researching various options, including cybersecurity, GIS, data analytics, C#, and other programming languages when I was introduced to Code Kentucky, and ultimately I chose Code Kentucky and C# as the next step forward. I decided to attempt to write a Maui project for several reasons. Maui targets a large spectrum of platforms, and I particularly wanted to target Windows and Android. Maui wasn't being taught in class, and I wanted to challenge myself to learn as much as possible, similar to how I targeted endpoints instead of controllers in my API project. I wanted to write a media player in Maui because I felt like that would be something fun, but also useful, and I would enjoy using it. The primary functionality that I wanted was an advanced search capability where I could write complex queries to produce semi-curated playlists. And I wanted this project to work with relatively large libraries in a real-world setting and potentially over long-distance networking. So a good example of the project is the Jackson Brody playlist. The author of these books listened to specific genres of songs that convey a distinctive feel, which helped her create a subtle and complex character. When these books were turned into a TV show, some of the same songs made up a majority of the music that Jackson listened to in the show. These songs were so important to Jackson's character and to the ambiance of the show that the music itself became like a third character. This is an unusual thing outside of, say, musicals. I began with the 23 songs used in the show, and from there I extrapolated 267 songs that create the same character and aura of the show and of Jackson himself. Along the way, during the project, I tended to spend several hours learning and researching for every hour coding, learning something new almost every day, or a little more accurately, every few days, as sometimes it took more than a day to resolve an issue, work around all the various challenges. One of the interesting compromises that came up was the use of regexes and program logic for the search parsing rather than getting into more complex and time-consuming issues of predicate builders, parsing builders, and full-scale compilers for a language. One of the next issues was the large remote library. I wanted the app to not only read files locally, but also to connect and read from remote libraries. In this particular test case, a large SMB over WAN remote library. The library size alone ended up being an issue with 40 songs locally versus 17,000 songs remotely. Then, along the way, as soon as I started that, I discovered a large number of all those historical MP3 files have missing and malformed data that caused various issues that had to be coded around and mitigated. Then they were working with some other interesting networking issues involving debugging, tracing, performance tracking, and various IO remote operations. And then we had to optimize those as far as when and where to ask for remote file data, caching the results into the local DB, and additionally, while the IO was already running asynchronously, I had to further isolate some specific operations into nested async subtasks. Along the way, I realized I was perhaps a little ambitious in how much I chose to tackle, given time constraints, my time budget, and due in large part to a lack of experience in C# since I was just learning it and choosing to color outside the lines and outside the scope of the class. However, I learned a lot, and I'm very grateful to Ernesto, our class's mentor, for allowing me to take on such a ambitious project and for coming along on the ride and helping me out when needed. What do I want people to know about me? Mostly that I just love to learn and I love to get to use all of my skills to tackle the projects, and I like to help people around me do the same to learn and be the best they can be. I really love the Code Kentucky class and would love to continue to learn as well as help others learn. And that's about it. If you have any questions, just want to chat, drop by the breakout rooms after our presentations.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Good job. That's really cool. I can't imagine trying to work over like local file systems like that. That's yeah. It doesn't sound like it sounds like fun and no fun at all. Next we've got Elizabeth George. She is from Lexington, Kentucky. She was with Code Kentucky in the data analysis class. So, Elizabeth, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Don. Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Elizabeth George. I recently completed data analysis pathway with CodeU. I am a stay-at-home caregiver for my son. My hobby is listening to music. I have a master's degree in computer applications. Despite embarking on a professional journey as a system analyst 20 years ago, I always had a passion for learning and exploring new opportunities. And CodeU has played a significant role in sparking that passion and instilling confidence in my abilities. And my goal is return to the workforce. And today I'm grateful for the opportunity to present my project, Climate Change Data Analysis. Now, the question is why this as a project? Firstly, because of my profound passion for nature. Secondly, because of the increasing evidence of climate change and its adverse impact on environmental resources. Thirdly, this project offers valuable insights for scientific researchers to understand the factors and patterns of climate change. Finally, this project supports policymakers in understanding the socio-economic impacts of climate change. Next, what are the key elements of the project? First module, greenhouse gas emission analysis compares emissions across sectors, gases, and countries. Next module, historical temperature data analysis, compares temperatures across hemispheres, latitude bands, and land and ocean. Let's explore the first module. The data has been taken from the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change website, and I use the read Excel function to read the data from the Excel files and generate the data frames. Additionally, I cleaned and processed the data using Python's Pandas library and SQLite. Furthermore, I utilize NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, CPON, and Plotly libraries to conduct different data analysis. Given our time constraints, and let's examine some coding visualizations. This example calculates the emission percentages using Python's ilog function to access the data frames. Let's examine the outcome of the code. This is a bar chart explaining the comparison of emission between 1991 and 2021. X-axis shows agriculture subsectors, while y-axis displays the emission percentages. Clearly, fermentation and agriculture soils are two major factors with the high emission rates, and it can empower the farmers and regular people to make confirmed decisions. Let's move to the next chart. That's a bar chart explaining the comparison of emissions by different types of gases. Here, x-axis shows different types of gases, and it is clear that carbon dioxide is the main greenhouse gas with the high emission rates. As we all know, as the carbon dioxide increases, the temperature increases too. And this is a grouped horizontal bar chart explaining the comparison of emissions across different countries. And in this graph, United States of America has the highest emission rate in 2021. And I handled a major challenge in the project by another process. And to resolve this, I used a retry mechanism. I set the maximum number of retries to 5 with a delay of 1 second between retries. And inside a for loop, I had execute query function, and which connects to the SQL database and writes the data frame content to a database file. Let's move on to the next module. The data has been taken from Goddard Institute for Space Studies website, and I use the read CSV function to read the data from the CSV files and generate the data frames. And stats models is the key library I utilized in this module. Building on that point, let's explore the graph. It represents the temperatures across different hemispheres. And x-axis represents the years and y-axis represents temperatures. And it is evident that there is a gradual increase in the temperature from 1991 to 2021. And in this code, I have used lowest function of the stat model library for calculating the annual temperature mean, and go.scatter function for creating the traces for the graph. Turning our attention to correlation coefficient analysis. And this graph shows the correlation between the emission percentages in 1991 and 2021, and x-axis representing 1991 and y-axis representing 2021. And the coefficient of 0.99 indicates a strong positive correlation, meaning that as the emission percentage in 1991 increases, so does the percentage in 2021. And I use the Seaborn library for visualization. Let's shift to a Tableau visualization of temperature and population analysis across countries. And this results indicate that as the population increases, so does the temperature. To conclude, let's recap the key points of the project. The analysis of greenhouse gas emissions and the historical data offers variable insights into climate dynamics and trends, enhancing the understanding of emission patterns and targeted intervention areas. These findings emphasize the need for ongoing policy monitoring and sustainable environmental care for the future generations. Thank you. And here are my contact details and the promo video. Feel free to reach me with any questions and comments. I'm happy to meet you all in the breakout room. Thanks again.
Wonderful job, Elizabeth. Very well done. Next, we've got Joshua McMillan. He's from New Albany. He was in Code Louisville in the data analysis class also. So, Josh, you're up.
All right. Thank you, Don. Again, my name is Josh McMillan, and I was part of the data analysis cohort. I currently live in New Albany, Indiana, and I am currently a supply chain routing and traffic supervisor for UPS. My My coding journey began last year when I started taking Python classes through Code Academy, and excuse me, I'm choking myself up a little bit here. And then a friend of mine actually introduced me to Code Louisville. He was a graduate himself, so I jumped into the project and signed up for data analysis because I really like doing this kind of work for a living, or on the side. I would love to do it for a living. My project is a analysis of last year's Dota 2 esports championship tournament. For those who aren't familiar with what Dota 2 is, it's a 5v5 online competitive game in which the teams take turns, or sorry, the teams compete in sort of a tower defense style battle, and each player assumes the role of one of 124 unique heroes, each with their own unique abilities and strengths and weaknesses. And before each match, there is a draft phase in which the teams take turns either banning heroes so that they can't be used in the match at all, or picking heroes that they want to use for their own team. So the idea behind my tournament, or behind my project, is to look at this tournament and look at each hero individually to see how impactful they were during the tournament based on how many times they were picked, how many times they were banned, and overall what their win percentage was. So in order to do this, first what I had to do was create a function that could take any number of Dota 2 match IDs and then feed that to the OpenDota API in order to pull all of the data necessary for analysis. So this function iterates through each match ID that you feed into it, concatenates it together with the necessary URL, and then after it makes the call, it stores that information in a data frame and then stores that into a dictionary. So once this iterates through all of the match IDs, I end up with a dictionary that contains all 151 data frames, one for each match of the international tournament. Then I created another function that takes that dictionary of data frames, and then using another for loop, iterates through that and pulls out just the necessary data needed for analysis. So in this instance, it's pulling all of the bans and all of the picks and whether or not those led to a win. And it concatenates all that information into one final master data frame. And then after a little bit more pandas data wrangling, we wind up with a nice clean data frame that we then feed into Tableau to do my analysis. Sorry, I just realized, is my bar showing up here on the right side of the screen? Is this partially covered by the?
We see your charts.
Okay, good deal. Sorry. So continuing on, this is a snapshot of my Tableau dashboard, and what we see here is one bar graph that shows the total number of times that a hero was picked, as well as how many wins they accrued during the tournament. And then down here we have another bar graph that shows the total number of times that those heroes were banned. So as we can see, Muerto was the most picked hero out of the tournament, being picked 57 times and attributing to the most wins as well at 28. But I feel like these two charts didn't quite paint the full picture, because in the nature of Dota 2, if a hero is considered extremely powerful, pro teams almost always ban them out of the matches that they play in, because rather than dealing with it, they would just rather ban it out. That way, there's no chance that the hero that they deem as strong would fall into the enemy's hands as well. So I decided to add an extra scatter plot to my chart that maps the total percentages of games that a hero was banned in against their total win percentage, to kind of get an idea of how strong a hero is. And as we looked in the last slide, Dazzle, Treant Protector, and Primal Beast were the three top banned heroes in the game. And if we look at the scatter chart, we can see that they are all three at the extremes of these of this scatter plot. For instance, Dazzle was banned in 67.5% of all games throughout the match, or throughout the tournament. And then the 18 that he was able to take part in, he sported a 72% win rate, which is just insane by Dota 2 standards. So these four heroes, Dazzle, Treant Protector, Primal Beast, and Chaos Knight, are the four that I consider to be the most impactful because they demanded bans in most of their games, and then the ones that they didn't, they went through to sport very impressive win rates, ranging from 72 to 52. So I see that I'm running a little long on time here. Thank you all for your time. Here's my contact information. I have my QR codes for my GitHub and my LinkedIn, as well as my email address, mcmillan94@gmail.com. I could talk about Dota 2 for hours and hours. It's such a deep game with plenty of data to analyze. But thank you all for your time, and good luck for everybody else presenting today.
Great job, Josh. Very cool. Yeah, it's a cool game. Let's see. Next, we got Matthew Saylor. He's from Sellersburg, and he did the software track with Code Louisville. Good luck, Matt. Uh-oh.
There we
Hopefully
go.
not dead
I'm good. I
bodies.
got it. Oh, no, you can't. Yeah, we good? Thanks,
Yeah,
Don.
we see.
Thanks. So like Don said, my name is Matthew Salyer. I took the software development class from CodeU. A little bit about me, currently a teacher in JCPS. I have a 7-month-old baby. So doing this class and learning these new skills while also going through that process was a journey that will stick with me forever, but I'm thankful for it. I'm a musician. I spent my first 4 years, my degrees in music education, my first 4 years of teaching were teaching band. And that's still a passion that I take with me everywhere I go. And I'm just always looking for the next thing to learn, always looking to better myself. And on that note, that's why I signed up for Code U. Teaching is hard. If you didn't know that, dealing with middle schoolers is what I teach specifically all day, every day. It's just exhausting. COVID was a big wake-up call. If you're not familiar, JCPS was virtual almost that entire school year. And the relief that I got, not necessarily from not having less to do, but having more organized time to do it, was just huge for me. And so I started to begin looking for skills and networking that would lead me to a career change. I took some other coding classes online, but Code Louisville really helped my confidence, really helped my skills grow, so that I'm in a place where I feel comfortable making that change now. So my project was called What's in My Freezer? Simply, it's just a personal freezer inventory system. And I created this because my wife and I are always double buying things, or we don't communicate what we don't have. And so our grocery orders always end up with, maybe 5 bags of frozen vegetables, but no meat to go with it. So I wanted something useful and applicable that her and I could use together to help keep ourselves organized. So let's take a look inside the freezer. This is what the home page would look like, just a simple menu. The nav bar at top travels with you wherever you go on the page. And then you're just met with these 3 options. You can add, you can view, or you can remove. So when you add items, my original plan was to allow scanning from a webcam to scan the UPC code. Unfortunately, my webcam was not high enough quality. I tried and tried and tried. But I eventually, that was a change of gears for me. I had to switch it up, and instead of scanning with the web code, I just went with typing the UPC code in. So if you just turn the product around, find the UPC code, you type it in, and you have the add another item button. You can add up to 25 unique items at a time doing this. Type in the quantity, and then the calendar automatically goes to that date. Of course, you can change that as needed. If you don't have the UPC code, you can just leave it blank or just type in whatever, and you will be met with this page where you can assign the name you want for the product, and you can select the category for the product. And then it will randomly assign a UPC code. It will just generate one. So that way, anytime you add that to your database, to your freezer again, it knows where to go. It doesn't have to recreate that. So when you finish adding, if you have given a valid UPC code, it uses Google's taxonomy categories to create a category for your project. Now, notice for your product, notice those 3 foods are not freezer foods: pasta, dark chocolate, almonds, crunchy peanut butter. My desk was just a smorgasbord of snacks around me, which was a good excuse to eat while I was working on this all the time. But it shows you the quantity that you added, and it assigns that category. Thought it was interesting that crunchy peanut butter does not have its own category. It's just plugged in there to the umbrella of food, beverages, and tobacco. But that is just a helpful way to keep things organized. So that way, if you want to see what's in your freezer, if you just go to view the items, view your freezer, it just creates a list, firstly alphabetical. Then you can, of course, sort it by quantity. You can sort it by oldest to newest, newest to oldest, or you can sort it by category. So if you just typed in pasta, you can see all the things that would be in there that would be under the pasta category would show up. So if you wanted to know what your oldest pasta was, that way you could get it all out. Or if you're specifically in the freezer, which pound of beef has been in here the longest, you can find that specific one and pull it out. And then when you remove things from your freezer, it just generates a drop-down list of all the items in your freezer. And you type in how many you want to remove, and it would just take it out. And it gives you a success screen to verify that you've removed the thing that you wanted to take out. This project relies heavily on interfaces. And so even though that was something we covered in class, that was having that practice with that was huge. And also learning more about Entity Framework Core. A lot of the difficulties I ran into were just data migration, time management. Again, like teaching full time, I had a seven-month-old baby. Trying to find all the time to get this done was a challenge in itself. And then again, the physical limitations with my webcam only being 720p and not getting that clear image that was needed. It's disappointing, but it helped me to just navigate around that challenge and find a better way to solve it. So if you want to contact me, you can find me there at GitHub, at LinkedIn, or the social formerly known as Twitter. And my email is matthew.salyer3@gmail.com.
Awesome job, Matthew. Very nicely done. In our final presentation for the afternoon, we've got Scotty Cornett from Burlington, Kentucky. He was in web development with Code Kentucky. Scotty, good luck. Can't hear you yet.
Sorry about that. Have myself muted.
There we go.
All right. So let me get this going for you. All right. So thank you, Don. Sorry about that. I appreciate the introduction. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for your time. So as Don said, my name is Scotty Cornett. I recently completed the web development pathway through CodeU. Currently, I live in Burlington, Kentucky, and I work at 3M as the quality control analyst for our 3M plant, or for our Hebron, Kentucky plant. I'm actually relatively new to programming. Prior to the pandemic, I didn't really consider myself a computer guy at all. I had no real professional interest or even hobby interest in computers. But during the lockdown, I started watching a lot of PC building videos on YouTube. I ended up building my first gaming PC and I really loved it. I would spend hours a day gaming on it, but eventually I wanted to find it like a more productive way to spend my time on it. So I discovered programming and I began coding as a hobby, making small Java applications in my spare time. And then I got introduced to Code Kentucky through a coworker who was actually a software development student, and I decided to apply. I got in and I completed the software development pathway last year. Then I helped mentor the Intro to Programming module as a student mentor last summer. And then most recently, I completed the web development pathway. So my capstone project for web dev was the website for Jurassic Park. If it was a real place somewhere, you could go and visit. This is a screenshot of the landing page for the site. In the upper left-hand corner, I'm displaying the current temperature and weather for Costa Rica, which is the approximate location of the park in the book and movies. This is real-time weather data from a weather API called WeatherBit. I also have some JavaScript logic built in to show if the park is open or closed based on the time of day. On the upper right-hand corner, you'll see links to sign up or to log in. The navigation bar also has links to book a trip, to display a table of the current dinosaurs, and a contact form, which is the data for that contact form goes to a MongoDB, as well as the data for the dinosaurs comes from a MongoDB. The Start Your Adventure button also links to the same page as the Book Now link. And so I picked this this project because I wanted to combine my passion as a child with my current passion as an adult. I still remember being 9 years old in the theater and just terrified out of my mind of that movie and awestruck at the same time. It was a feeling I never forgot. And so that's something I use to breathe life into this project. Also, as my ultimate goal is to be a full stack developer, I feel like it afforded me a platform to showcase my skills in both the front end and back end development. I'm really happy with how the back end implementation complements the user interface and creates an effective theme park style interface. Lastly, I wanted to create something that was kind of unique to my own personal experience. The core elements that I used for this project were Node.js, Express, EJS for HTML templating. I used Mongoose as an NPM package and MongoDB for the database. The dinosaur user data and contact information, as I mentioned, are all stored in MongoDBs. I use bcrypt for user authentication and hashing passwords, and JavaScript for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, HTML, and CSS to round out the project. Here I'm showing just a quick screenshot of a main page because I wanted to highlight the biggest problem that I have with this project, and that was to have it responsive. With the huge range of devices that we have today, it's important to make the site look good to all end users, just no matter what their device. I did not design the site in a mobile first way, so that actually provided me a lot of headaches along the way. Thankfully, this led to a deeper understanding and appreciation for CSS properties of Flexbox and Grid. Being more comfortable initially with the JavaScript side of web development, this is a great learning experience on how to design effective front-end layouts. So I learned that it's never a good idea to store a user password in a database. Obviously, data breaches are a thing, and we never want to compromise sensitive information. So hashing algorithms are critical to protecting data should a breach happen. I learned how to use the Express router to serve different pages of a website. I gained a much deeper appreciation and understanding of Flexbox and Grid. And lastly, I got some experience working with NoSQL databases such as MongoDB. And about myself, just quick takeaways: I'm passionate and motivated. I'm resourceful. I'm able to find solutions to the problems I encounter, and I'm eager to learn. I've completed 2 Code Kentucky pathways in the last year. And I appreciate your time. Here's my contact information should you need it. I'll be in one of the breakout rooms. I thank you for your time again.
Amazing job, Scotty. Very well done. Love the Jurassic Park. Love it.
Thank you.
Amazing job to everyone today. Breakout rooms will be opening shortly. I want to pass it back to Shannon. She's got some more information for you. So again, great job, everyone.
Thanks so much, Dawn. And thank you so much to our presenters. Those were so great. Again, I had to miss our practice sessions a couple weeks ago. So that was my first time seeing these presentations. And I think it's just really cool, the variety of things that you all come up with, the practical applications that many of you came up with. It's just really neat. So our team is working on putting our presenters in a breakout room. So here in a minute, the rest of our attendees, you all can self-select into those breakout rooms to talk to a presenter. It looks like they're already up. Feel free to pick one presenter and then you can kind of hop around. You don't just have to stay in one room. We encourage you to talk to as many folks as you would like. The only thing we ask is that our student attendees, please make sure that the employer and community partners get to hop in and ask their questions first, but you're welcome to also join, congratulate your fellow students, things like that. Again, we encourage you to jump into one of those breakout rooms and kind of hop around. We're going to bring everyone back around 4:25 or so. For just a final thank you and a wrap up. But just a quick reminder for my employer folks, I will be sending an email later this week with a link to the resumes for all of our presenters. So you'll be able to get in touch with them. If you need anything sooner though, please feel free to reach out to me, Shannon at codekentucky.org. My email is the one attached to your calendar invite. So thank you all so much and feel free to start joining those breakout rooms.
And if you're not familiar with Zoom, there should just be a button down at the bottom of your client, just called Breakout Rooms, and there'll be a list of every student with the name of their project, so you can track them down.
And if it's not there, it's in the more category.
Thanks, Brian.
Looks like a large chunk of people have been able to make their way to a breakout room, but if you're struggling to find that, please just unmute and somebody from our team can help. I'd like to add or hide some of those functionalities sometimes. For any of our attendees still hanging out in this room, please feel free to join one or more of the breakout rooms. You can join one and then hop into another. If you're looking for that option, you should either see a breakout rooms menu item on the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if you click the three dots icon that says more, it should be under there. If you're having any issues whatsoever, please feel free to unmute yourself and someone from our team can help troubleshoot that. Hey everyone, we're going to give everybody a minute or two to rejoin us. And then we just have a couple thank yous and announcements before we let you go. We're giving folks about a little less than a minute to rejoin us, so just hold tight, and we have a couple thank yous and final announcements before we let you all go. Thank you again so much for being here.
Just real quick, Amanda, Josh, I didn't get a chance to hop into your rooms, but great job. My data analyst people, and Emma, I got a chance to talk to you. Great job on your projects. Proud of you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, we should have everybody back now. Apologies if you were kind of abruptly ended there as it yanked you back, but we are glad to know that you are having such a great conversation. Our team, the Code U team, really just wanted to thank you all again for attending this demo day. We would not have the type of success that we've had over the years if it wasn't for support from all of you. So our fantastic presenters and students, our staff, our wonderful employer and community partners, and our mentors. And I know some of you fall into several of those categories, which has been very cool to see. One final reminder for my employer and community partner folks, I'm going to be sending an email later this week with a cleaned up recording for you all so that you have that at your disposal, as well as a link to that folder of resumes from all of our participants. So please take a look at that when you get it. If there is anyone that I can connect you with, whether it is a student or someone on our team, if you're curious about learning more, please reach out to me, Shannon@codekentucky.org. I can make sure you get to the right person, or if you're working with someone regularly on our staff anyway, feel free to reach out to that person. Our next demo day is going to be sometime later this summer. We'll probably be looking at mid-August to early September timeframe. We do run 3 classes a year, so kind of crazy, but it'll be coming up before we know it. So please keep an eye out for that. But once again, just want to thank everyone so much. I know our students put a lot of work into their projects over the last several months, and it's great to see their hard work rewarded and acknowledged. And we just appreciate all of you for being here and for supporting them. So thank you all again so much. And we are so thrilled that you joined us today. Have a great rest of your Monday.
Thank you, Ms. Shannon.
Everyone.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, and great presentations.